All right. We are live. Let's see here. Okay, so I want to take a thing that I was going to do anyway, that I have sort of been researching a little bit today, and we are going to implement parts of it at least on the stream. What this problem is basically getting automatic builds running via Fossil. And so Fossil is a code management tool like Git. If we run Fossil timeline here, this is basically git log, etc., etc. So this this log is perhaps using some familiar terminology to people. So what this basically is going to be is we are going to trigger something on with a after receive hook is what Fossil calls it. So if we look at this right now, for example, I'm going to jump into a container here. So this really should have been available. I'll try to. So let's say I create a file here, a new file, and we say Fossil add new file, and then Fossil commit add new file. So what we should see now is that this after receive file should pop up if everything is fine. It might not be. That's curious. What have I broken in that case? In that case, we kind of had to debug this again, which I was not really wanting to do. Fossil can be a little bit annoying with this. I do have two processes running here. Okay, let's check our hooks. Very curious this. So this should be running, and it was running before. I finally got it running to some acceptable degree. I thought I had the solution. Obviously I didn't. That's very curious. So what does that mean now, though? Yep, that's only back office. The 1425 is just now. Docker compose logs. Also ancient. Attempt to write a read-only database. Why? This is fucking super confusing, to be honest. So I'm guessing that's my problem. Now we have to figure out what could be causing that. Man, this is so confusing. Okay, well, how do we deal with this then? I'm confused why this would even be a problem, considering the database should be in while mode. Let's see here. What was the error we got? Let's check the logs. Well, now we don't really have any errors. We also don't have an output file. So let's right, there it is. Oh my lord. This is not the issue I wanted to debug with this stream, to be honest, but well, I suppose we basically have to. Just when I thought I had something that I could actually take to the stream. Well, actually this is not useful. Let's copy this one, I guess. So let's see here. See what the forums say about this. Now they could have this problem with basically anything, obviously, but it's the directory that contains the fossil writable by the CGI process. It needs to be in order for SQLite to generate a rollback journal for transaction control. Right. That would certainly make some level of sense. I suppose this should be writable. who am I? Yeah, we have the correct UID. Should this not be writable? I do not understand this. So that's not quite the thing we wanted. This is really just an SQLite issue. We really do want Fossil to be part of this. Okay, how do we sort this out? I think maybe I need to give up on the idea of running Fossil in Docker containers. But this really should not be a problem. By the way, let's see here. Yep. So let's see. Oh, this is all the same post. So I'm going to, I think I may have a little problem here. Let's see. Nope. Okay, we may have to make an executive decision and just sort of just make our own change detection, basically. I don't know how to make Fossil's hooks actually work reliably. It's like they just don't. I don't know what to say. We could make a hybrid. We could try out a hybrid where we run Fossil servers on the host directly instead of running them inside of Docker. I think that may be just causing annoying issues, so it might be solved by just running these things outside of Docker, maybe. Though I am a little bit curious about that, but it just doesn't seem like this should be a problem, really. But you just sort of never really know with these things, I suppose. And I think this might be a general issue. So before, for example, I had these problems with, let's say we wanted to edit this hook, right? Edit 0 with type after receive command. Let's say we wanted script right after receive. Like this. Okay, so this works now. Before it didn't work. It just wouldn't. It wouldn't edit it. Which this also was because of a database, like a busy kind of problem. Strikes me as odd a little bit, to be honest. Not much. How do you say this name? Abdur Rahman? Is that like the split? Seems oddly like almost Middle Eastern, also German somehow. So what we're doing today, basically, is, well, I thought I was really just making the part of what I want is CI/CD with Fossil. So Fossil is a code management, decentralized code management system, let's say, like Git, but it comes with a bunch of stuff. So it comes with, so these things here, you get tickets. By default, you can, do all of that. You have your file stuff, branches, tags, etc. You get a chat, you get a forum, you get a wiki, and so on. So this is essentially a code management platform, you could call it. You get all of this by default with just one binary. It's made by the same people who work on SQLite. And so what I thought we were making was simply, we were hooking into the Fossil hooks in order to kick off builds automatically when commits come in. But the hook system seems incredibly difficult to trigger. So what we might have to do is simply, we might have to build the entire thing that checks are there new things and so on. Yeah, we might have to do the entire thing. I didn't really want that to be the case, but here we are. I thought I had figured out exactly how to run these hooks automatically, but I did not, it turns out. So probably what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to build some kind of tool that checks the SQLite database for new commits and so on. It's going to be a whole lot more involved than I thought this was going to be. We're definitely not finishing today at all. There's basically zero chance of that. So this really threw a wrench into everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this hook that we had. I'm going to also switch from Fossil with back office. This was a script I wrote in order to run the back office stuff. Back office is basically the system that's supposed to take care of sort of background tasks in Fossil. So I think what we're doing here is we're basically just going to say, you know, screw that. We're going to do this here. I am curious, what is the user here for actually? User does nothing. Why is this even, hang on, why is this passed? Why have I passed this? This should make no difference. Yeah, that's confusing. Okay, so the entry point does not need to be overridden anymore at all. And this should be not TP, but ancient. Let's say this, basically. So if we run a diff here, we can get a diff much like with any other tool, really. When we run fossil commit, switch back to not using back office script. So here you'll see that when we commit, by default, Fossil syncs with a remote server. So it's distributed, but with basically like a, when it can, it will sync with a remote. And when it can't, it won't, basically. So it's pretty nice in this regard. What I do not think is nice is the hooks. Again, super confusing. I don't really know why it would be like this, to be completely honest, but here we are. So let's recreate our fossil ancient process. This now does nothing really except run. If we jump into this, we'll see that it's only running the fossil server. If I do museum here. Yeah, it's the correct user. So let's imagine here what we're going to have to write. We're going to have to write a program that basically opens the SQLite database. So for those who might not know, Fossil, every repo is an SQLite database. So for example, you might wonder like, okay, what does that mean? Well, it means every commit, everything is just this, right? If we were to say, for example, from ticket, here are the tickets in this, right? Also ticket changes here. And also users, file name, let's see. Right. Some of these are not there anymore. Let's see here. Is there other commits? Comment. Ah, okay. Tables. Select from. What would we actually have to check here is the question, right? Artifacts. These are just sort of file names and so on. We can probably do schema artifacts maybe. So there's a read, a receive ID, a size, a type, source ID, hash, content. Okay. Yeah, I was not prepared for this, but here we are. Event. That might be interesting. It is pretty cool. I would say it's easier to deal with than Git. It has better sort of, let's say, defaults than Git. It feels more decentralized, even though the kind of default mode is to have a central server that you push to. You can of course have no server and so on, because again, this is just a bunch of SQLite files. The defaults are interesting, right? So if you look at this, here I am in this ancient directory here, and I'm in a directory called trunk. And so what this is really just by convention. If I were to say here, if I were to open my ancient repository here again, we could say, let's create a new directory with some other name. So I'm going to jump into there and say open code fossil, ancient fossil. Now we have two separate, I have trunk, which is behind, right? Or like this. I have some other name and I have trunk, right? So what you can do here, this is sort of like Git work trees, except this is sort of the standard way to work with Fossil. So right now I'm in some other name, right? This is just a directory. If I were to run fossil info here, we can see we're in the same repository as the other one, and so on. And there's really no kind of difference here. But if I were to say some exclusive file here, fossil add some exclusive file, this is added now, but I haven't committed anything. So if we look at the help for commit, we can actually see here that we can actually branch off of this immediately. So if I were to say commit branch, that was the, yeah, let's call this experimental. This is now going to be our branch name, and I'm going to say new experimental change. Let's see here. If I pull up, I haven't done anything except just commit something, right? Now we have our new branch. The upside here, because we're working like you do with work trees, is we now still have, we can jump back to trunk whenever we want, and we have still just the same content here. You'll notice that some exclusive file is not here. I can work on these entirely separately. And so the kind of pressure to finish up a branch or whatever that I certainly have felt, while, you know, there's a bug report, but I'm working on a feature, you don't really have the same pressure. And this, of course, again, it's basically like Git work trees, but, you know, this was released 2 years after Git came out, and they just were already working like this. So I think Fossil has a lot of defaults that you kind of, default mode of operations that you kind of want in general. Again, and you make a commit and it pushes immediately when it can, and so on. If you're on an airplane, yeah, it won't push. That's fine. But the expectation is that you do push when you can, basically. And so, well, if you have auto sync on, you can turn auto sync off. But by default, it's going to be on. And that means that you get this, it's a little bit more like, yeah, we do have a central server, but I'm also working in a decentralized way, you know, for the most part anyway, and so on. But yeah, so here we can, let's see here. Well, where am I? There you are. Right. So now we have this experimental branch here. They can have different colors, by the way. The timeline is now, it shows this new branch here as well. I have the classic view here. I thought that was really nicer. It's a little bit more compact. If we switch to compact, it's ironically less compact. Modern, even less compact. Columnar, simple. Simple is pretty good. I like simple. Verbose just seems like the same thing as modern to me, but whatever. Classic and simple. No, classic. Classic is the best. I found the best one earlier already anyway. And so here you can see effectively a complete list of everything. By the way, the status is closed. And the, let's see here, resolution, overcome by admins, rejected. I am not good enough at technology to make Fossil hooks work for me, so we'll have to do it live, so to speak. Okay, so I'm starting to rethink some parts of this. Clearly I'm doing something wrong. I've overcomplicated something, for sure, right? Let's try to uncomplicate things. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. Actually, I'm gonna leave you here with this failure of a screen, to just soak in how badly I have failed at this. And then we're gonna stop using Docker for the whole fossil thing. I'll show you the Docker Compose stuff. And we're gonna just have Nginx talk to the host, basically. I think I will sort it out somehow. All right, let's see. All commits on all branches. Oh no, it commits on whatever branch you were. Well, it syncs actually everything, I think. So it syncs tickets. It syncs whatever really. So one of the important things. So on the right side of this, right, I have, this is my local computer, Windrunner, right? So if I were to say Fossil UI here, it would open this. And so I can make tickets here, for example. Let's say I make this change here that we wanted to do. We said closed. And motherfucker, rejected. I suck at everything. Have overcomplicated everything, so this is not currently doable. So now locally I have this change, right? If we go to the ancient here and we go to tickets, this is still open, but here it's closed. So if I go to tickets here, we can see it's closed. It's gray here. This is my local version. It's running this on localhost. That's because I did Fossil UI. I can close here. Now we don't have the Fossil UI. So we have all of those facilities locally. When I do Fossil sync now, you can see here artifacts sent 1. And if we go now to our tickets, we can now see that this is done here, right? So it syncs everything, whatever you have. You have new branches, you have new tags, you have new forum posts, you have new tickets, new wiki pages. So for example, if I run Fossil UI again here, we can, for example, say, okay, what wiki pages do we actually have? And I can create a new one, or I can actually say, hey, I want to edit the one that we actually have here. more or less under control. So we can save. Now, when I go to my home page, this now has more or less under control. And again, this is not the case here. But if we sync artifact sent 1, if the other side also had artifacts, we would also get those. It syncs two-way. So now on our home page, oh, this is our local version. Sorry about that. Our home page, we now have this change. So it's for everything, right? The sync. So what we're gonna do, I'm not gonna completely give up on the hooks, because if we solve this stupid fucking read-only bullshit, we might have solved it for everything, right? Currently, the Fossil instances run in a compose file like this. So I have an image that I've built for Fossil. And so it has a container, blah, blah, blah. It mounts our repository there, directory here, and so on. Now, what we actually kind of want to do now is just say, screw this, right? Let's remove this one. Let's actually comment both of those out. Yeah. I'm going to say docker compose down fossil ancient and fossil TP as well. So they should still be down now. Yeah, let's just leave it like that. And here, if we run fossil diff, we'll see here, of course, that our change is here. We can fossil commit. Remove fossil from composer stuff. If I run timeline here, we'll see though that we are not up to date, right? In the sense that we haven't pulled in everything. So we can do fossil up like this. And then now we are up to date. So now we actually have the changes in the docker compose here. Now, we want to run, let's say, for example, we want to run fossil server. I think we can basically copy some arguments here, of course. JSMod bundled, -- create, let's see what that means. Create a new repository if it does not already exist. I don't think that's needed. We can just sort of, I think we can kind of move on without that. So we're not going to add that. HTTPS, don't know about that. We don't need that actually. Base URL. We're going to do this, and then we're going to say code fossil ancient fossil. So let's try this. So right now, this is running on 8080. Now, importantly, what we actually kind of want to do here is we want to change our nginx config. Nginx conf, instead of saying fossil ancient redirecting to here, we kind of want to say 127.0.0.1. That is a problem though. So let's say access IP to docker host from container. Host docker internal. Let's try that. Host docker internal, port 8080. That should all be fine. We can of course choose our ports. I'm going to commit this route to Docker host for, let's do this, Fossil up. This gets us our new commit. And here we probably want to restart Nginx, right? Because Docker composed restart Nginx. And now I'm just going to check what's running. Nginx is running. But it's run into some kind of problem. Ah, host not found. Okay, okay, I see. Oppa. Right, so here I'm going to actually just comment out the TP stuff for now. Remove TP from Nginx temporarily. So host Docker internal does not seem to exist. Hang on. Let's just Google for that. Extra hosts. Okay, I mean, we can try this for sure, not the problem. Host gateway, was it? We might need to surround this, I suppose, with some quotes. Add extra hosts. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. What the fuck do you mean? Different solution on I suppose let's try that, but okay. Curious. Why not? Use IP for Docker host. Okay, that does seem to be running. Okay, this sort of at least still works, I suppose. That's good. We kind of now have to figure out exactly what we're doing. I guess we should try the hooks again. So we're going to add after receive here. And we are going to say command so in theory we should actually be able to do this. But I'm gonna instead say right after this, and we're gonna do this here. So now we should have a hook. This hook runs after receive, which is when we've received something from some other place, right? It also runs when you edit things locally, even, right? So if we were to create the ticket here, we should be able to say, for example, new ticket, trying some stuff out. Whatever. So this is not the right that we are looking for, actually. I don't know how often these run. It might not run at all, in fact. I could do this, so TMP after receive. Oh, here the ticket is, right? So this has run now. It ran automatically. We didn't have to run any kind of interesting back office thing, really. If I were to, this probably runs every 60 seconds at the moment. I think that's the default or something. I'm not entirely sure, to be completely honest. But now, for example, if we were to, we can do Fossil sync here, by the way, to be up to date. We receive two things, meaning, you know, those tickets and so on. So here, if we were to Fossil UI now, or we could do Fossil ticket maybe. fossil ticket list or show this one here. So trying some stuff out is there. Not entirely sure that I can actually change it from this. So we're just going to do fossil UI. Again, this runs locally. So here we can just say trying some stuff out. We're going to set this to closed. Fixed. So of course nothing is changed on this end yet. But now if we fossil sync, eventually we should see on this end that a change comes in. There you go. That was the ticket changing. And this was the notification that that happened. So now the hooks seem to run better when we removed Docker from the equation. Why that is, I couldn't tell you. It is what it is, you know. Fucking technology. I hate everything. So now this removes some work for us if this actually works. I'm not gonna necessarily say like for sure it does, it will or whatever, but it does seem like maybe the solution here could be real. This means we want to change what this script does, right? So right after receive, the only thing it actually does right now is it writes to this TMP after receive file. The point of this is, of course, to see that the hook runs and what information does it write. So we have repo, right? What repository is it actually for, this thing? And here we can see here, of course, this is the case. We can also see the current working directory, which is here. We can also see aux file, which is for some changes, you have an auxiliary file that you're supposed to read. In our case, when we make a ticket and so on, the aux file is nothing. This is also the case when you make a normal commit, it seems. I think so, at least. To a large extent, that seems to be the case. And then you have input here. That's what is output here with standard in. And so here on standard in, we get this asset number, I think it is. This is an asset number. So I think at least, so if we do fossil info, fossil timeline. Yeah, so this ticket here. This is the ticket ID, sorta, okay. And if I were to now do fossil timeline, we should be behind. And here we can do, so B614, right. This is the actual hash of the position we are on right now. Okay, right. So now we want to run a script, but I was planning, we want to run some kind of program that allows us to do a very low cost call effectively that just informs some other place that something has happened, and that place can do the hard work. These hooks are supposed to be low cost, meaning they should run effectively instantly. So writing to a file like this is fine. Establishing a TCP connection, sending some data, and then disconnecting could be fine as well. That's probably what we want to do. This means we need to write two different things. We need to write the sender and the receiver. And we need to make some kind of protocol for this to happen. So what we're going to do is probably we're going to start working on the sender first and just establish like what can we send, right? Because it's all about what data do we even have access to. And that's why the script was made, so that we can actually see what data do we actually have access to. We know the repository file, which is good because we can send the repository file to the other side, and that side can actually do a checkout of that repo. We can also see what branch this was done on, right? So if we look at the information here, first of all, we have the directory here. That's interesting as well. We have the repository file, which means we can do fossil open from that repository file. Now fossil open should take as an argument a branch, presumably. Maybe. Fossil open repository version. Okay, let's experiment a little bit with this. So just as we can pass repo there as well. So what if we do fossil open ancient in this case, and then we just take one of these bad boys, put that there, and we say repo there, schmuck. Well, I don't really want to put it in that directory. Let's see, I must have misunderstood something. Where do we pass these options? Oh, work there is the one we want. So that name is not resolvable. That's curious, right? What we want to do now, I suppose, is find, this is a normal check-in here. Right, so check-in, that's a check-in. What if we try that one? Okay, that works. So if you were to make some kind of CI/CD pipeline out of this, you would then look for check-ins in the after receive hook, which we know is part of the standard in here. When we see some hash and then the word check-in to some kind of branch name, that would work. Of course, we don't necessarily need the branch name. We could say just, you know, we could be fine with, let's do this now. We could be fine with just always assuming, if we're running CI/CD on trunk, for example, which is main. Trunk is main for all intents and purposes. We could, of course, just say, no, we always just run on trunk anyway. We don't need to know that it's trunk that's been pushed to. So here we have schmuck, we have some other name, and some other name is really So if we go into some other name, this should maybe say here that it's a specific branch. Yeah, tags experimental. Now if I were to echo, so we have this some exclusive file, right? We are going to some exclusive file. We're going to push to that and just say more dots, more dots, more dots, more dots. The question now is, does this show up in the hook, right? Does the hook handle events on any branch? Or do you actually have to specifically run the server on this specific branch? And currently, it's looking kind of like it's not picking these up. Unless it's polling. But it's definitely looking like no. So hang on, one question though. Oh, this. Right. Okay. If I say after receive, command RA like this. So hooks are specific to checkouts, maybe. Still not showing up though. Nope. Hook list. And now if I'm making a change here, let's see here. What do I even have? New file. Okay, so maybe hooks have just stopped running in general again. Yeah, this is not the right computer. Never mind. I don't know. At the moment, I'm so confused about what even is any of this stuff, you know. We can see the stuff here. Yeah, changes are showing up here, but hooks are not. Okay, so hang on. Okay, just to double check the admin settings. Right. Yeah, I mean, this is just a hook. It says nothing about like what your branch is or whatever. So I don't see why any of this would even be relevant. Because I was thinking the issue here was somehow so here's what I did before to kind of make this work. Let's say 15, whatever. No lease, no delay. Code fossil. But of course, this was also possibly the thing that made this not work. So I may just have to give up on this entire thing, to be completely honest, at the moment. Which would be probably the worst stream I have ever done. And I had one where most of it was a struggle because I hadn't slept that night. But this is probably worse, to be honest. Because at this point, I'm not sure that, I don't think I know how this basic functionality even is supposed to work, to be completely honest. I'm sure I'm misunderstanding something. But this also means that Docker wasn't really the main issue, I suppose. I mean, it certainly seems to really not be playing a part. So fossil hook add, type after receive, command echo %r %a, let's say sequence 5. Yeah, no. Wow. It's kind of bumming me out, I'll be honest. Yes. Fossil as in the code versioning tool, yeah. I'm trying to make fossil hooks work. It's going incredibly badly. I am misunderstanding something very important, I suppose. I'm really not at all managing this at the moment. Sorry for not responding faster, by the way. 6:39. Yeah, that's a few minutes ago, sorry. Yeah, so at the moment what I'm trying to do is basically just have Fossil react to changes properly. So via hooks, and that's what they're for. They're literally for CI/CD. I thought originally that my problem was that I was running the Fossil instances inside of Docker. Should that have been the case? I mean, I don't think that should have been an issue really, but now I'm finding out that it's not really straightforward when these hooks are running. On one hand, I had them running before. You can see here the output here is from our test script. So our test script looks as follows. Like this. It just writes out sort of the parameters it's getting. So clearly here we have some updates. We have a check-in here. We have a ticket change. We have another ticket change. I have made several check-ins after this that have not shown up. So now I'm curious a little bit what we're doing. nothing showing up. Yeah, I really don't understand why none of this is running. Okay, yeah. At this point, the rest of the stream is probably going to be just fact-finding. We're going to, I guess, run SQLite on these files and see what we can find out, really. So Fossil stores, like I was saying before, Fossil stores everything in a SQLite database, right? So if we were to check here in event rather, we can see here that we have our latest commit. And here, so we could react to this potentially. We could watch for changes in the event table. So we could do that. And we can check specifically. So if we do schema event here, there's a type and a comment, also user, etc. So we could say select everything from, well, we could say select comment essentially. User comment from event where type is equal to CI. So that's check-in. We could do that. We could basically watch for changes in this output. And we could say mtime here as well, which gives us this. This is curious though, right? Because, so what's the schema actually here? Because, right, so there's a tag ID. Right, there is a tag ID. Tag ID, and that's important. Ish. Hang on, is that value 0? Or like nothing? Hang on, did I fucked up here, right? Tag ID. Can we select unique? Maybe. We cannot select tag ID group by tag ID. Well, okay, right. So some of these are tagless. Right. But, huh. That is curious though, right? These are normal commits and some of these are on different tags. So we removed new file on trunk, and on experimental, we made this use less spaces change. So then why aren't those clear about the tag ID? What am I missing? What am I missing here? We would expect to see sim trunk for the tag ID. I think this is a little bit odd. I think maybe I'm missing something here, right? Okay, right. Why is this auto-completed? Tag name, I suppose, is the... Okay, so that's a view. And what was event again? That's an actual table, right? Yeah. I don't understand why this, why have tag ID here if none of it actually... I have two commits on different, with different tags. If they don't matter in this table, where do they matter? So none of my check-ins actually have tag IDs here. And the thing is, like, if you're watching this table, you would want to know which tag you're looking at. Because you might not want to run builds on without, for example, a certain tag being on there, right? So just for, if we look at these tags, we can have tags that we actually, they're sort of like git tags, right? So you could put a tag on a branch, and you can also have that not be inheritable, and so on. By default, they will be inheritable. you can see here, propagates to all descendants of that artifact, and so on. So we have two tags here. So we know we have proper tags, but for whatever reason, there are no tag IDs in SQLite for any of this. Make this make sense. Someone, please. Because this basically means we can't actually use this version. We can't use this either. Really. This is just fossils tables, right? Fossil uses a SQLite 3 database for the state of the repo and so on. So it's really just what Fossil has put together. That's why I'm so confused, to be completely honest. I mean, Fossil is a code management tool. It's essentially a whole platform. So what you get with Fossil out of the box is you get this here. This is localhost here. That's also localhost. So what you get with Fossil is this entire thing. So you get effectively let's say a mini GitHub with Fossil. You can do this locally, you can do it on a server. This is the server version. Here I have this localhost version, so let's just jump in real quick here and show that. So if I do Fossil UI, this opens here, right? So now here we have this, we have our timeline here and so on. This is my local version now, so I can do all of this. I can browse stuff here, I can log tickets and so on. So for example, if we were to log a ticket, hello, fuck me in the ass, there you go. And we're just gonna spam something there. So we're gonna submit this. And of course now, if we go to our tickets here, this is now, this code defect is open and so on. Now if I were to say, okay, I'm done playing with GUI stuff. Here I can do Fossil, motherfucker. Fossil sync. Now if we go to our online version, we can find our new ticket here. So when I synced, I also synced this ticket. I realize you said you're new to programming, so a code management tool here is just a way to manage the, in this particular instance, this would be a tool to manage a project together with other people that you're working on, where you're adding code, you're sorting out tickets, you get feature requests. You also have a wiki here where you can, of course, you can write information and so on about the project. You also have a forum that you get by default. You also have a chat, which seems crazy to me, but whatever. So you could essentially use this as a, let's say your company had a Fossil instance and you just, this was what you worked with. You didn't bother with GitHub or anything. You're just doing this. The primary purpose, of course, of all of these tools is really to, for example, say, hey, I want to write something in a file. So we're going to write something here. Then we're going to say Fossil add a file. And then we're going to say Fossil commit. add a file. So when I do this, it's synced automatically here, and immediately we can go and see add a file is here now in our online version. So that would be a short version of what you want to do this with this tool. Yeah, it's a local GitHub instance, essentially. Yeah. Well, it's a local and also a remote GitHub instance if you want it to be. Your company can run this tool, and it's, you know, yeah. Let's see. If you're trying to find information based on the data in their database, I suppose looking at how their code does it is the way. Yeah, well, the reason I'm looking at the data is because the data is the only thing we actually have to look at anyway, right? Whatever data we can find in this SQLite database is basically what we have to work with, right? So just for context, I spent a fair amount of time before trying to get something, getting their automatic hooks to run. And so what those hooks actually are, they're like Git hooks. You have one that you can run on the server that basically says after I receive something, I run a hook with that information. That's what we were trying to do before, which stopped working. Hence why we started looking at the actual tables here, and so on. So the reason I want to look at the data entirely on its own is because it doesn't really matter what the code is doing. The only thing we are ever going to have access to is the actual data, right? I just need to find the actual table that says anything interesting about this whole thing, right? Now, granted, you're probably right. We could take a look at the SQLite code, or the Fossil code rather. I do have it locally, so it's not really a problem either. I would like to avoid that though. I just don't understand why on earth would they not put this information in the event table. The event table, so, okay, so here's what really is bothering me, right? If I do tag ID, object ID, comment or whatever from event. Let's skip object ID. So tag ID and comment, right? Here we can see the tickets all have tag IDs. Beautiful. The tickets all have tag IDs. Not a single check-in has a tag ID. But these are all on branches which are tags. So I just don't get it. I just don't really get it. And if we do this, for example, right? There doesn't seem to be to me at least any kind of identifying kind of information here that we can actually use to solve this problem either. Like there's nothing in common here that we could actually use to solve this problem so that we can effectively we can say, for example, look at this table. If you see any changes on trunk, you build an artifact and you push that to somewhere. Because there's no way to identify trunk here. This change is on trunk. What identifying information, what actually do we have access to here? We really don't have access to almost anything in this event table. So the event table is useless, essentially, right? What do we do otherwise? Maybe we say delta Probably not. Blob. The third field of event, let's see. That's the object ID. And so that would be an individual object ID. They don't identify branches. So when I did this before, tag xref. Let's say just limit 5 sort. Fuck me. Whatever. Let's do this. I don't even know how to interpret this information, I'll be honest. So maybe not that. What were we looking at before? Schema blob. Receive ID. Okay. Receive ID is effectively like what. So you can see here actually there were several files here that were modified in receive number 2, and so on. Yeah. That's what receive ID is there. This doesn't identify any kind of tag. Here you could actually check for like, have we received a new receive effectively, right? So if we remove the limit, 152. Two files. What did I modify at that point? Anyway, receive from. What is that? Interesting. M-link. What is that? A mid, a fid, a pmid, and a pid, and a fnid, and a pfnid, and an mperm. What is all of this? I kind of want to see what's in this. I mean, it's just going to be integers, clearly, right? But what was this? M-link. Yeah, these are some good names, yeah. Yeah, it's just a bunch of integers. What did I even expect? I said this literally to myself. It's just going to be a bunch of integers. Then, sure enough, that's exactly what it was. I don't have any use for this. Schema. I'm sure a lot of this has a purpose, obviously, right? Clearly all of this has a real purpose and is probably very well designed. I mean, Richard Hipp made it. I trust this man implicitly when it comes to software development. My main issue here is I am definitely not seeing it. I'm 100% not seeing it. Right, so this was the view that we found before. Opa. Yeah, there's no identifying kind of... Well, hang on. Hang on, what is that source ID? Well, if the source ID was different for different tags, we would have seen that, of course. I must be misunderstanding just the general kind of idea behind the tags, honestly, right? I don't think I'm getting it, really. With regards to, for example, like here we're on experimental, right? And here we're on trunk. This 100% does not show up as I think it would, clearly, right? Obviously, we can see here, all of this is making a, it's very clearly saying, hey, these are different branches. These are branches. This is all cool. It certainly makes a difference here. And we can see here tags, experimental. But it's not making a difference in terms of the data that we can see clearly. It's put together somehow. Here, okay, actually, what if we so okay, there are a few interesting things actually that we could take a look at. So the main menu is connect, like it's basically you set it up like this. This uses something called TH1. It's a templating system. Test harness 1 is what it's known, like that's the name. This is the thing that actually says what we're gonna redirect to. This timeline, I wish we could access the SQL for that. That would be very helpful, because then we might figure out how do they do this. But we're probably not going to be able to, unfortunately. Non-propagating tags. Yeah, they are symbolic tags. You can also enter SQL commands here. I could have used this the entire time, I suppose, but then again, we don't get tab complete here, I'm assuming, so. Oh, you can get all of the schemas at once. That's interesting, actually. Tag. Yeah, the tag table would be very interesting if we could just figure out, okay, how do we connect that to an event? Really, that's it? That's it. There's no more than that. How is it that we we just have tag IDs though? We have tag IDs. Why aren't these referenced somewhere? Please. So hang on, is it tag xref? Is that the thing? Right, so you have source, you have origin. Do you have to, what, constantly look for new events in tag xref? Is that it? If we were to... So, okay, hang on. We check the schema for tag xref, right? And then we check the schema for events. A source ID here references a blob. Is that the same as an object ID though? Order by. Why am I even... So the source ID, let's say we take the source ID. Tag ID and source ID. 19 is experimental. 12 is... okay. Value. What is value here? Oh. That's it. That's curious. What is this rid? 282. I have to read the chat. Let's see. Right, yeah. You have an artifact ID for well, you have them for individual files as well. what is this experimental thing? Why does it keep showing up here? The tag ID is 8 for this experimental thing here. Why? What is that? I'm definitely not getting any clarity on what we can actually do with this. It's not fun. This is probably the worst stream I've done so far. I'm gonna have to rethink pretty much everything with this, probably. It's not working out, clearly. Wow, okay. Yeah, I think this is something I'm gonna have to look at this tomorrow and rework this entire thing. Just the expectations in general. Have a good one, Amp. For those who might not know, I actually went to school with Amplify a long time ago. Very long time ago. Let's see. I don't know why I keep looking at this. Why am I even looking at this at the moment? What is unclustered? Just rids. Okay. Suppose. Cherry pick. What are these tables? Yeah, I'm giving up on this. I'm definitely giving up on this for today. And this is just it's gonna be the worst stream that's ever been, and that's fine, to be honest. Sometimes you just have days when no progress is made, and that's fine, honestly. I'm not as broken up about this as it might seem. It's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna put this on the need to find out a lot more about what to expect here from the tools, right? So obviously we know that you can 100% find out this information, reconstruct this information that's right here on this very screen right now. You can reconstruct this via your SQL information, right? So clearly, that's a thing. Actually, hang on, is this? Well, once again, there's another SQLite database for your current state of things as well. But yeah, so I'm gonna give up on this for the time being. Next time, if I haven't come up with how to do this part, we're just gonna move on to the other parts, period. Meaning we're probably gonna make some kind of program that takes some kind of input, meaning, you know, there's been a new commit on this particular, we're going to assume that we can get the branch information. We can get the branch information. We can get some kind of repo information. Here's the repo, here's the branch, and so on. That tool will effectively be, let's say, because we want that process to be pretty, well, we could use that as the build tool. Either we're going to make that tool execute a build itself, or it's going to inform another tool that then does the build. That's sort of up in the air at the moment. How exactly it does that is also kind of up in the air. If we want to specify essentially build scripts with shell scripts, that probably would be my favorite version. I don't really particularly enjoy anything else. So yeah, that's what we're going to do next time. Even if I don't really find out a way to look at this information and have it make sense, that's what we're doing, regardless. And otherwise, if I do make the hooks work, which we saw that was a massive pain in the ass and just doesn't actually work, seemingly. If I could make those work, we might also try to do that, but I really don't think so, to be completely honest. I think at the moment, you know, it seems maybe like the hooks are a dead end. I don't know if it's this version of Fossil or whatever it might be. I'm holding it wrong or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna end the stream here. Really sorry for making basically zero progress at all. But yeah, sometimes you just have a bad time making progress, to be honest. I'm not really upset about it. It doesn't make for very, you know, entertaining streams, certainly, but it's very real. So from that perspective, I'm fine with this, you know. But yeah, I'm going to try to research this a little bit more, see what we can actually get out of these files, and if we can actually make something that looks at the state of things, reacts to changes, and so on. And then regardless whether I can do that, we're gonna be making that thing, assuming that we will find a way later. And that's next stream though. which is probably going to be tomorrow because I feel real bad now about not making this one particularly interesting. So tomorrow I'll put together this this tool no matter what happens. And we're just going to assume that there's some way to get these changes out. We're going to assume that certain data exists, like, for example, some kind of, commit ID, a repo, branch information, and so on and so forth. And then there will be a tool that acts on that information. Either it sends, it makes some kind of connection to another tool, or that tool itself is the builder. So the builder is just run in the background and keeps a watch on a repo, or multiple repos. It sort of depends, right? But yeah, so that's next time though. Again, bad stream, but very real. If you're not having these moments sometimes where nothing seems to make sense and so on, and you're fucking futzing around with some tool that is not working like you think it is or should, then you're a better person than I am, I guess. Anyway, that's it for now. I will see you tomorrow.